Welcome to Everything House Music and More, and my special guest today is the First Lady. First Lady, how you doing today?
I'm doing blessed and highly flavored.
All right, highly flavored. I like that. So how you been?
I've been good. COVID was,
Right.
she's a hateful bitch. But for me, my life didn't change too much because I was working from home anyway, and I enjoy being at home with my family.
Good.
And my husband's my best friend, so we was kicking it like we always do.
Good. That's what I'm talking about. So are you ready for this?
I think so.
Okay, so let's get into it. Here we go. Chrissy, where did house music culture start for you?
I started DJing before house music started. So I started in 1980. So it didn't actually start for me.
Okay.
As it started, I was right there with it.
So you was in the culture already.
So I was already a part of the culture.
Okay. So you seem to be down with two underground promotion crews back in the day, Gucci and Wall to Wall Sound, and Chicago Bad Boys. What was the time like being involved at that level?
Actually, Wall to Wall Sounds was the first crew that I was with, because at the time I was dating Steve Poindexter, and he's actually the person that taught me how to DJ.
Oh, okay.
He was the one that I was interested. I learned early in life that the way to a man's heart was through his hobbies.
Okay.
When, right through man's heart is through his stomach. No, it's through his hobbies. Because if you can do what he enjoys, then he's going to want you to be around more. Right. So the DJing party, well, it was interesting to me how they could go from one song to another song and still keep the beat. Right. So I started actually asking questions. Okay. And that's when he started showing me. And one time he came home and I was already at his house. Right. And I was in his room playing on his equipment.
Wow.
Trying to make sure, okay, now this is what he said do. And that's when he knew I was serious. And so he started showing me even more. So
nice.
I started going to the parties. It was him and John Hunt, who we called Buster back then. Right. And Ken Samuels. Okay. And so we would be there, and that's when I started learning about a little bit more about the equipment and about what the parties were about. Because at that time, I'm 13, 14 years old. Only parties I had been to were family birthday parties and stuff like that. Right. So this was new for me.
Okay. So he taught you how to DJ. Yeah. Now, do you remember what record you practiced on at that time?
The two that I remember, actually was three. Let's Start to Dance.
Bohannon, right?
And Get It Up and Do It Again. And Salsa Rhapsody. Those were the three that stick out the most. Okay.
All right. So you went to Whitney Young High School and you were a Mendel cheerleader.
I went to South Shore my freshman year.
Okay.
Holy Name Cathedral my sophomore year. The Academy of Performing Arts, which is now Shy Arts, my junior year. Oh, wow. And Whitney Young my senior year. Okay. And I became a Mendel cheerleader when I was going into my junior year.
Wow. So you really was in the epicenter for house culture.
Yes.
Tell us, what was the scene like in your terms of parties, music, and fashion?
At that point?
Yes.
Let's see. So, of course, your Levi's. For jeans.
Yeah, that was a 501s or something like that?
No, it was just the 501s hadn't even came out yet. Okay. Your Sergio Valentes, for women. Right. Your Gloria Vanderbilts, your Calvin Kleins, Izod, Polo. Right. Coach. Right. Coach was a big thing. I remember me and this girl, Monica. Oh, I can't remember Monica's name. But we used to take men's ties, and we would wear them around our waist, and we tie them like a man ties a necktie, but we would wear it as a belt on our jeans. Okay. Which, in retrospect, looked kind of weird now that I think back on it, because when you're dancing, you got this thing flipping up. But we thought, you could tell us nothing. Of course, the penny loafers, K-Swiss, Tretorns, all those things. That was it. That was, if you had those things, you were on point. And of course, if you had a Gucci bag back then,
right?
You were next level.
Oh yeah,
Gucci and Louis Vuitton and stuff.
That was next level because it was Coach that you remember you had to have the tag.
Coach. You had to have the Coach tag, and I remember people would go into Marshall Fields and Carson's, and they would steal the Coach
tags. Right.
I remember I wanted a Kelly Green Izod shirt, and at that time they were like $45, and that was expensive back then.
Right.
And I asked my mother for an advance on my allowance, and she was like, no. So I was like, forget it. So I went to whatever knockoff store, and I got a Kelly Green pullover, and I cut the Izod out of one of my old shirts,
right.
And I put it on, but I put it on the wrong side.
Oh my goodness! Oh wow! Did they know? They knew.
Let me see. Everybody else in the line had it on the right side. He has mine on the wrong side. But
you should say you got yours from Europe. See,
I didn't know those lies then. See, they couldn't just fall out of my mouth like that. So, but that was. I was like, oh man.
All right. So during that time, what music was very popular at the time you was listening to?
Punk Out. Punk Out was.
So name me something so people know what Punk Out really means.
Mesopotamia, the B-52 stuff.
B-52s, right.
Devo.
Okay. Right. Rock Lobster, all that stuff like that.
Whip It.
Right.
Kraftwerk.
Wow.
Numbers.
Yeah.
That was
so at that time, so they was playing that and then disco and house at the same time?
Right. So you still get your black music.
Right.
Because I never called it disco, or I just called it black music. It was black artists. Right. So it was that mixed in. And then I remember like Spandau Ballet. Right. I remember that, and Tears for Fears. And so I remember all of this music being a part of what was in the crate. Yeah. And there was no time to jack. There was no music is the key. Yeah. There was no,
it was all before
move your body. This was this 1980, 1981.
So he was playing like Wording, Rapping Hood and all that stuff like that. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Spies.
Right.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Wow. Okay. So now comes the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
How did that form, and what was that experience like? And explain what the Fantastic Four was.
So, around, I think had to be my junior year. So it had to be around 83. I'm going to say around 83.
Right.
Steve Poindexter had heard about Wayne Williams giving this female DJ battle. Now, at the time, in the beginning, in 1980, the only females that were playing, first of all, you really didn't hear of any. It was just me and Lori Branch. Okay. That was it. There was nobody else. Celeste and everybody else came along later.
Everybody after that.
And so I had never played with any other females. And he was like, well, it's a DJ battle at first impressions. Okay. And I want you to go down. I want you to be in the battle. And I was like, okay. Right. Whatever. And so...
so now is the battle where you challenge Farley?
No.
Okay, so let's do this.
We'll get to the Farley story.
All right, let's do this first.
But no, it was me, Stacy Saxton.
Okay. Oh wow.
Angie Hurley.
Right.
And Celeste.
Okay.
Now Lori was supposed to be at this particular one, but she wasn't. I don't know what she had to do, but she didn't make it.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, Angie Hurley was first.
Okay.
I was second. Stacy was third, and Celeste was fourth.
Right.
Now, Celeste would have maybe been second or third, but she picked the needle up off the wrong record. Oh. Yeah, that's a killer. Yeah. So, but at that party was Steve Dorr and Keith. What was Keith's last name? I can't remember. But they were Park Avenue Promotions. Okay. And they had this idea to form a female DJ group. Okay. So kind of like a female Hot Mix 5. Right. Was what their concept was. Okay. And so originally it was going to be the Fantastic Five. Okay. So it was going to be me, Celeste, and Angie Hurley. Right. Anybody who knows anything about the Hurley family, My sister could not stay out past the street lights came on and she had to be in the house.
Right.
So she became our honorary member because she couldn't do any of the parties.
Right.
So they also included Kenya Lenore, which was Ricky Lenore's little sister, and Berlando Drake, who went by the name of Bird, who later on I found out was Hugo's cousin.
Get out of here.
But this was before I had met Hugo.
Yeah, she did a lot of records with us too. Oh,
yeah,
we go into that
Bird.
later. Yeah, right.
That experience was awesome because it was the first time that people going to parties saw women in control of the party, period.
Right.
We weren't dancers. We weren't coat check girls. We weren't taking the tickets or money. We were actually the reason you were there.
Nice.
And we packed these places. Sours, Sawyers, however you want to pronounce it.
Right.
I've always known it as Sours, which from my understanding is the correct pronunciation.
Right.
Where else did we? Mendel.
Right. Yeah.
Mendel, come on.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing experience, but at the time, we didn't realize what we were setting up.
Correct.
For. Had there been no Fantastic Four, would the thought have come for a Super Jane?
Right.
They came along in like 95, 97. Yeah. This was 83.
Wow.
That this was happening. Long before they even,
Yeah, that was epic.
So, but we didn't have marketing and branding like they did. So, we had the posters and it didn't extend outside of the city of Chicago. We played Resurrection.
Yeah.
And a couple of other places. As far as the female thing back and forth, Kenya and Bird, they were from West Side.
Right.
They were a little more. They were a little more passive.
Yeah.
They didn't, they would rarely stand up for themselves. Celeste said, "I'm playing last.
Yeah.
Or, I'm playing third." They were like, "Okay, not me." I was like,
now everybody had their own style, like the
everybody had their own
yeah.
style.
Okay.
I was like, no.
Right.
I'm not playing first. I played first last time.
Right.
So this rotation is going to happen.
Wow.
And so, but we didn't argue, she and I, but I think she gained a different kind of respect for me.
Right.
So I didn't get that kind of back and forth. I do remember her style was more like Frankie.
Yeah.
Because that was who she was with the majority of the time. In fact, Celeste was the person who took me to the power plant because I had never been there. So she took me there for my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
But I remember she did things like she would smoke and Ken would be like, Celeste, don't smoke over my goddamn equipment. Don't get, but the rest of us didn't, didn't smoke.
Right.
Kenya and Bird had their own style of what they played, which was really more along the lines of what was happening on the West Side.
Right.
I was playing more like wall-to-wall sounds, like what Steve Poindexter, Chip Beasley, Ferris and them, because that was my crew.
Yeah.
Notice these are guys.
Yeah.
There were no girls for me to hang out with. But it was a great experience. It lasted for, I want to say, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
And then I don't know why we disbanded. I'm not really sure. There was no issue between any of us, but we just kind of
faded out.
It just kind of faded out.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it. Kenya and Bird, I'm not sure if I don't recall them continuing to play.
Right.
They, Bird was really into singing and
she came and sang. She came on when we was of an ID production.
Yeah,
and started to sing with us.
Thing.
Yeah.
And Kenya was really into school. Of course, she did the H.
Right.
U-S-E. So for me and Celeste, we continued with the DJing.
Yeah.
And she was more underground, and I don't want you to say above ground or commercial, but I was more along the lines that you would see me at a high school party, or at the candy store.
Right.
I'm sorry, the playground.
Right.
Then the candy store. So that filtered out into something else. Now, the Farley Story.
Well, so you're known in Chicago for a story in which you challenged Farley to a battle. Tell us that story.
So, Steve and I were in the car.
Steve Poindexter, right?
He said, "I bet you $10. We pulled up to the mansion. I think it was Mansion 2.
Okay.
He said, I bet you $10. I think it was $10. You won't go up to Farley and challenge him to a battle. Now, finding out, not only was I the first person to ever challenge Farley to a battle, I was definitely the first female to do it. Right. And I think if I get the story right from Farley, he thought I was coming up to him and hey, Farley, how you doing?
He thought you was a groupie. Right.
And I walked right up to him and said, your name Farley? And he said, yeah. I said, my name Chrissy Hotmix. I'll battle you anytime, anywhere. I'm a better DJ than you. And I turned around and walked off. Okay. And it was people on the porch, on the steps. And they was all like, in today's thing, well, damn. Right. Ooh, right. And we had this conversation, Farley and I, years later, and he said, I got to tell you, that shook me. He said that was the first time anybody stepped to me like that. Right. And I felt bad, and I'm so sorry, Farley, because I know you didn't. You felt good at the time. No. I felt good because I got my $10. Right. And but that was not my intent. Was not to do that. I never want to disrespect or hurt anybody's feelings. Right. But when he said that to me, he was like, he said I was stuck for a minute. Yeah. And but I love my brother Farley. Yes. And while we're on Farley, I want to just get the Farley stories out all in a row. Okay. Something else that happened that was when Farley and I first met. Okay. We became friends. I became a little sister. Right. We were at DJ International. Right. And this was after Used by DJ. Hold on. Yeah, I want to ask you that. But we'll go back to that story. Okay. So we're standing in the open space that was there when it was right there on Randolph. We're standing in the open space. And so Farley, at this point, had moved from BMX to GCI. Right. And it was a Master Mix 6. And I said to Farley, another challenge. Farley, how come there's no women, no female DJs on the radio? Right. And he said, he had no answer. So he said, make me a tape. Ooh. And I said, okay. So 2 days later, he gets the tape. Right. He goes in to Lee Michaels, who's the program director, who was actually the person that started the Hot Mix 5. Correct. Okay. By the suggestion of Mickey Oliver. Right. Okay. I want to get that story straight. Because people are saying a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. And Lee deserves his credit. Correct. So, I guess Farley said to Lee, hey, I got this female, I want to put her on, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, Julian Jumpin' Perez heard what Farley's idea was. Right. So he went to Xavier Gold and told Xavier, make a tape, blah, 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 for BMX. Right. Well, Farley heard that Xavier, he had found out. So Farley told Lee, let's put her on Thursday. Ooh. Because they didn't have that option on B96 because they weren't on 5 days a week, like Hot Mix 5. So my mix played that Thursday, which made me the first female playing house music.
So, excuse me, you mean
GCI?
No, you said B96. You mean
BMX? I'm sorry,
yes,
BMX. Right. Because I came on the day before her. Right. So that was the beginning of my first.
I don't remember Xavier being a DJ though.
For a little while, I guess for a little while she was. I always knew her as a singer. Yeah. But she came on that Friday. Wow. And so we became the first two to do that. Fast forward, that was my way into radio. That was my first into radio. Then a little later on, nope, I'm going to say that story for later. Go back. Okay. Go ahead. So, because that's going further.
Right. That's going further. Right. So you were one of the first house music vocalists with that record, Used by DJ by MK2. Mm-hmm. What year was that record and how did it come about?
85.
85. Okay.
How it came about.
That's Mark Belcher, correct?
Mark Belcher and Kelly Wright.
Kelly Wright.
And how that came about was I was at Glenwood skating rink I was hanging out with E.T.
Oh, my E.T. Eric Taylor.
That was back when he had the little car.
Escort GT.
Yes. Infamous car. Okay. So he said, "Hey, I'm gonna go over Mark Belcher's house, and they doing a record." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was 18. I was like,
Right.
"Okay." And again, this was right before I met Hugo.
Right.
So I was like, "Okay." So we go over there, and it's Mark, Kelly, and Dean.
Okay.
What's Dean's last name? Dean Bowie.
Okay, Dean Bowie.
So Dean Bowie is the one that's actually doing the rap.
Right.
He took Your Love. So
right.
Dean.
Okay.
Okay, so Bambi, this chick named Bambi, I Have a Dream, Bambi.
Right.
She was supposed to sing it.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, she didn't. She didn't show up or something. And so Eric, E.T. says to Mark and Kelly, Chrissy sings. And I was like,
now, was the song already written?
the song was already written.
Okay, it was written.
I was like, no, my mother sings.
Right.
I just like sing along for fun. And they were like, yeah, that's all we need. Just sing this.
Right.
And so I did, and I didn't think anything else about it. And the next thing I know, they were like, we need you to come down here to DJ International because we're gonna sign a record contract. And
wow.
Now, my mother was already kind of in the music industry. So
yeah.
First thing she said to me when I said that to her was, don't you sign shit. You bring it home. Let me see it first.
Right.
I said, okay, this is Rocky Jones, right?
Yeah.
So you ain't gonna go in Rocky's office and say, oh, you got a contract? Okay, let me get it.
Right.
I'll bring it back.
Right.
Wasn't doing that. So I bowed out. I said, I can't. My mom said I was 18,
right.
but still,
yeah.
My mom said I had to bring it home. So I left out of the office, and Mark and Kelly signed.
Right.
So I never signed anything with him. I never signed a release for him to even release my voice on the record. That's why my name is spelled wrong. It says Khris, Chris, instead of Khris, because I never signed anything.
Now, did you do shows anytime or?
Of course.
That time? Okay.
So, what were they going to say? You can't perform as my voice.
Exactly.
I'm singing if I want to.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's how that came to be.
Wow. So what was it like being a DJ international artist at the time amongst K Joy, Kevin Irvin, all the rest of the guys and females?
You know what? Because I was a DJ,
right.
The artist part was secondary to me. It was not that it was unimportant, but it was secondary. It wasn't the driving force of my life. It was like, I did this song, great. But from that, I got to work with Mario Diaz.
Right.
We did a couple of songs together, and then I did one with a guy named Michael Griffin called "Close Your Eyes." That was on AKA Records.
Okay.
And
so never MK2 Part 2 used by DJ.
We never
went back.
did anything else.
Okay.
Although it was funny because in the studio, before we went to the studio, Joe Smooth was playing. He was saying, I don't want you to sing it like this. I want you to sing it like this, talking about the hook.
Right.
He rearranged things before we went into the studio. And Joe is, I will say this about Joe Smooth, he is the calmest.
Yes, he is.
Most compassionate person. You know, if Joe Smooth gets upset, world's fixing it.
Yeah, because I never seen him.
I've never seen him blow his. Never.
He must do a lot of cocaine or something. Like, I'm playing, Joe. I'm just playing. So, Chrissy, it seemed like you crossed from that scene out of nowhere into becoming a radio personality. When did you first start radio, and how did you become First Lady?
Okay, so I went to while I was DJing, I was going to Columbia College. Right. And Bonnie DeShong was my acting teacher.
Oh, wow.
You know, hey, baby.
Okay.
Bonnie DeShong was my acting teacher. And I knew her from GCI. And she said to me, you know, Chrissy, you're already got your foot in the door for radio. You're already in the building. Right. You should consider pursuing that as a job. And I was like, no, you know, Herb Kent's my godfather, and my father and Herb worked together, Electric Crazy People. So I was familiar with radio.
Yeah, you had it in. So what year was this, approximately?
This was 1986.
Wow.
And so she finally talked me into it, and so I started interning with Lee Michaels, Jackie Hasselrig, Barbara Prieto, Sonny Anderson came later. Oh, Sonny, I forgot Sonny's last name. So I got to be there with Bob Walls, with Tom Joyner, with Irene Mamacita Bojica,
yes.
Chili Childs, LaDonna Tittle. I got to be there with them, and I got to watch how radio was done.
Right.
And I was interning in programming, so I got to learn how programming was done. Yeah. And what I didn't know is that my life was being set up at that point, where I was just thinking I was just doing something to be doing it. That was the stepping stone, the introduction to what would pivot my life in a whole nother direction.
Absolutely.
So that's how that started.
Wow. So you are award-winning music director and program director for radio. In your professional opinion, why do you think house never took hold with Black radio across the country?
I think one of the biggest things is the programmers. Lee Michaels was a different kind of program director.
Right.
He took the time to see what was happening in the city that he was programming in. And so things were different then. Right. So you didn't have these 1, 2, 3, or 5 corporations that were controlling everything.
Right.
You had more individual ownerships, and program directors had more freedom to play to the audience that they were actually serving. Right. And house music was ours, and we embraced it at that time. What happened was, in my opinion, as companies started to gobble up Black radio, first of all, house music, ain't nobody going to jail.
Right.
Ain't nobody talking about killing and the misogynist and doing drugs and all. So there was really outside for the music industry, right. And it was a very positive music, and I just think they really didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to promote it.
Yeah.
And programmers in Chicago, after Lee Michaels left, he left and went to California to KMEL, and it was something different happening out there. So as a program director, he couldn't bring what he was doing in Chicago out there.
Yeah, because that's San Francisco.
That's San Francisco. Yeah. However, he could have taken, because they had a gay community out there that was playing the music. If he would have known that, perhaps he would have taken that out there. I don't know that he did, but it wasn't successful if he did. But in New York, they had their own style. So of course they ain't fixing to love up on Chicago. Right. So it was really our responsibility to keep it going. And the more they brought program directors in that were not from Chicago, they weren't homegrown, and they weren't focused on what we wanted. They were focused on what corporate was pushing down, which was what record labels was telling them. Elroy Smith was one of those program directors, and kudos to him, because a record promoter, a label, would come to Elroy and say, yeah, we pushing this. Right. Elroy would take it, look at it, listen to everything, and say, okay, that's cool. I'm playing this one. Yeah. And that's how it was. Right. And there weren't enough program directors out there like that. Yeah. And even today, they're not program directors. A lot of them, they in the seat, they get their check. That's it. That's all they care about. They don't care about the culture. Right. There you go. I'm sorry. No, you just push. No. I see that you push the button. No, that's
you push the button. You're passionate about it. And I love that. I love when people speak from their heart about that. So let me ask you this: do you feel like Beyonce's previous album and tour would pave the way for house music being considered more Black radio, or is that just a one-off for Beyonce and house culture?
What are we talking about? Wait, say it again. Are you talking about this Renaissance tour?
Yes. Do you feel like Beyonce's previous album, which is Renaissance right now, and the tour would pave the way for this house music culture?
It's funny because on the way here, Hugo and I were having this conversation. Now, I'm a diehard Beyonce fan. Right. And that's all I'm saying about that. Okay. So, but I think he made some really good points that kind of changed my mind about what I was originally thinking. I think that what she is doing is introducing it in a different way to a generation of people, and another musical culture of people that weren't aware of it, or they felt like it was a gay music, or they felt like it was their mama's music, or something like that, and they didn't really understand it. So I appreciate artists like her, like Missy Elliott, like Queen Latifah, that like even Puffy's track that he did. Right. of them putting it out there. But what Beyonce did that Missy and Puffy and Latifah didn't do was she is continuing to push it for whatever.
And she's saying it's house, which is good. Yeah.
Which is, and she might have made some statements that might have been a little off kilter.
Yeah, so that's what I'm about to ask you right now. So I want your opinion on this because you part of radio and everything else. She made that announcement that the queer community created this genre of dance and house. What are your thoughts on that, since you're one of the pioneers in this?
I think that I first met Beyonce when she had to be maybe 14, 15. This was when the Say My Name, Bills.
Yes.
No. Right. First came out. I met them in New York. Story with them. Told them about phone cards because Matthew wouldn't let them call their friends. Right. So I told them about phone cards. So they refer to me as the phone card lady. Right. That's all right. I still, the fact that they even remembered me all these years.
Right.
But clearly, she wasn't a part of the culture.
Right.
And clearly, whomever is in her small circle that feeds her the information at this point,
right,
gave her bad intel,
okay,
or slighted intel,
right?
Because there were members of the queer community that did make house music. So
right.
So
I mean, we never say they was part of the culture. We're never saying that.
In a sense, what she's saying is kind of right. There were members but there were more members that are not in the queer community that made the music. Right. So if you can't recognize,
well, we only going back what she said. They created the genre.
They didn't create the genre.
Okay.
So I think that for her, it's going to be hard for her to walk that statement back.
Right.
But she can do it. Whether or not she's interested in doing it is a whole nother thing. Now, on the real, if I'm Beyonce and I'm in her shoes, I'm squashing. I'm not saying anything else about it.
Absolutely.
I'm moving forward. And I saw on social media, Chuck Roberts, the voice,
right, had
put up that she's using his voice in the beginning of the tour, of the Renaissance tour.
Nice.
In the beginning, there was Jack. So that in itself, for me, it's not an apology, but it's a recognition.
Right.
Because Chuck's not a part of the queer community, right, is a recognition. If anybody is to go back and look at that song,
right?
Okay. So, but what I do appreciate about what is happening is it's opening up conversation.
Absolutely.
It might be debate.
Absolutely.
But from debate is the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think that's great because, like I said, the kids nowadays is getting the term house music, and at least it's putting into something. Right. And they're talking about, which I like. So
because without them, without the next for there to be no next generation, what we do dies out.
Absolutely.
And it just becomes, remember they had this, it was this music.
Yeah.
No, I want what we've all collectively laid the foundation for.
Absolutely.
I want them to be talking about it and listening to it, or for that little root to have grown into a whole tree of 50, 60
Absolutely.
other,
Yes.
genres in other countries and other languages, which it has done.
Yes, it has.
It truly has. And so that I appreciate that part.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, Chrissy, I asked your husband this. Chicago is known for its myths and beefs. What Chicago-based house beef or myth do you want to squash or correct, past or present?
Myth or beef? You mean overall, or one that I have with somebody?
Let's go with what you have with somebody.
You know what? Honestly, I don't have any beefs of something that somebody did directly to me.
Okay.
And if I do, it really wasn't no beef because I can't remember it.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't really say it's a beef, but okay. I would. I did read a couple of interviews that Super Jane had given, saying where it was said that they were the first female house music DJ collective, right, and blah blah blah, and no disrespect to the strides that they made, and correct, I mean that, no disrespect, but when you take that global stage, make sure you know your own history.
Absolutely.
You know that you are not the one that laid the foundation. Do a little bit of research, and since you know you came into this game way after the rules had been written, find out, go back, do some research, ask some other female DJs that you know were playing long before when you were still in grammar school.
Right.
Ask them, hey, was there ever that you all know of?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so, and then to continue to allow that to be out there. When you give interviews going forward, set it straight, because when you delete my history, you deleting your own history.
Absolutely.
So don't do that. Say, Super Jane, I love those sisters. They are the first that I know of that were diverse in the matchup. They can certainly claim that.
Yes.
They were the first to go global. They can certainly claim that. They were the first to have major sponsorships.
Yes.
They can claim that, but you cannot claim you were the first.
There you go.
You cannot.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about, Chris. Preach it.
Again, I love them, and it's a big deal, because they would be pissed if in 2025 another one came up and started saying they were the first. They would be the first to correct it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's the only. And it's not a beef, because I don't have a beef.
It's just a misinformation,
It's just like the Beyonce thing, bad intel. But once you know, and going forward, correct it.
Yes.
Because when you don't, you disrespect the history, and you don't want nobody disrespecting yours.
There you
don't
go.
Disrespect mine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from First Lady Chrissy, y'all. And also, Chrissy, tell us what's going on now. And also, this portion of this video is sponsored by, go ahead,
Jam 98, Music for Your Soul.
That's right.
Digital radio station that Hugo and I have. Doing great. It's almost a year old. And we've got almost 3 million listening sessions.
Beautiful.
We play all genres of music, 70s, 80s, 90s, R&B, disco, soul, funk, soft rock, Motown. You'll hear everything from Etta James to Miley Cyrus.
Nice.
Because it's about jams. Corporate stations, they play the hits. We play your jam.
That's what you see in the back right now, y'all. So that's what you see right now.
That's what that is. So download the app, your smart device. Hold on, let me get my shameless plug out.
Absolutely.
Download the app, smart device. Tell Alexa to play Jam 98. B-Spire TV Network. We're channel 980. That's on Roku. We're on Amazon Fire TV, Amazon Music. Any place that you get your podcast, you'll be able to find it. Jam98.com as well. Oh, who's on the air?
Yes.
Myself, BJ Murphy. Of course, Hugo H does the lunchtime jam mix.
Okay.
Angela Stribling, you remember her from BET's Video Soul.
Oh, wow.
She does Pillow Talk. Will Downing, you know who Will Downing is. He does The Wind Down.
Right.
A lady named Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker is... She is the one that was out there promoting Def Jam.
Okay.
LL Cool J and all them. So she does a show as well. Bonnie DeShong, of course. Let me just say this. Bonnie DeShong was the person who told me to go into radio.
Nice.
And now I've had the opportunity to come back and hire her, not once, but twice.
Oh, look at God.
So that's full circle.
That's full circle. For y'all don't know it, Hugo and Chrissy are husband and wife. Couple. So yes, please tell us how you met, because Hugo didn't want to go into that. So please tell us that.
He told his side of whatever. This is what happened.
He told me that Steve Poindexter didn't want you no more, and he just like, I'm just kidding. Okay, go ahead. All right.
So me and Tyree had just finished the in-store.
Tyree Cooper
at JR's Records in
Evergreen, right?
Evergreen Plaza. Tyree said, "Come with me to this party. My boys are there," and I was like, "Are they cute?"
Right.
And what does a dude say when you say, "Are your guy friends cute?"
Yeah, we don't know it. Yeah.
He was like, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, they better be cute. And so I get there and we go in, and it was General Persuasion. We go in and the party hadn't started yet.
Right.
So the first person I meet is Mike Dunn. So I met Mike before I met Hugo. Like 2 minutes before I met Hugo, I met Mike. So I go in DJ booth. Tyree says, "This is my brother Mike." And I say, "Hi, how you doing?" And then him and Mike start talking.
Right.
So I excuse myself out of the booth. because it's a polite thing to do.
Right.
And I was raised right.
Right.
So I turn a corner and it's a table on the dance floor and it's these guys sitting on the table,
Right.
Last Supper style, if you will.
Okay.
And at the head of the table is Hugo. So I turn the corner and I look. I was like, So Tyree came out the booth. I said, who is that? He said, who is who? I said, down there. Because, you don't want to point.
Right.
It don't be obvious.
Right.
And I said, down there. He said, oh, that's my brother Hugo. I said, introduce me. He said, no. Hell, you mean no? You brought me all out and rode this hot ass bus over here. You gonna tell me no? This is what I came for.
That's old school riding a bus.
Yeah, he was like, no.
Right.
I was like, okay. So all these years, I was thinking that I was interested in Hugo and Hugo was not interested in me because now he's smart because he sat there and he knew I was checking him out.
Right.
And he just sat there like.
So y'all didn't.
He acted like he didn't even know.
Right.
I was standing there like,
Right.
hello. If my inner thoughts were coming out, this is what. Hello.
Right.
Hugo was sitting down at the end of the table, like. I was like, this motherfucker.
Right.
Here, challenge.
Right.
So all this time, I'm thinking he ain't paying me no attention. Okay. Years later, and when I say years later, I mean just like 5 years ago, I find out, thanks to Tyree, because we at Farley's house, and we talking about me and Hugo meeting.
Right.
And I said, yeah, and Hugo wasn't paying me any attention at all. And Tyree said, what? I said, yeah, he wasn't interested. Tyree said, no, that's not what it was. Because when I walked down there, Hugo said, Ty, who that? She with you? And Ty was like, that's my sister. Hugo say, hook me up. Tyree said, no, hook yourself up. So we did. We hooked ourselves up.
Oh.
And the thing about it was the physical attraction was first.
Right.
But then we got to talking and I said I was a DJ, which was not, Hugo was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I think it was the next day, we went downtown, we went record shopping. Okay. And so again, I had the same interests that he did. We both liked to shop. Right. We went record shopping. We both liked fashion. Right. So a friendship developed within the relationship. Yeah. Then we broke up. That's a whole nother story. Oh, wow. Where we bring in Tina. But that's a whole nother story. But I will tell you this.
Tina who?
Tina Sloan at the time.
Okay, all right. We ain't gonna get Tina involved.
She was my best friend, and me and Hugo was arguing on the phone. She was like, girl, you don't need him. He's a peasant. And I was like, that's right. It's over. And before I got the phone down, I was like, wait, that's not what I meant to say. And we didn't have text pagers and stuff. So I got in a cab. And I went all the way to Hugo's house. Dang, Hugo. And I begged him to take me back. We was 18, 19. Right. Begged him to take me back. He was like, no, you broke up with me. I don't take nobody back. No, never, goodbye. Ooh. I was bawling. I was crying. And I was so depressed. Fast forward 11 years later, Tina takes me to the warehouse.
Wait, so y'all broke up and went together for 11 years?
Went together for 11 years. I got married to somebody else. I had my daughter. Right. And then me and him got divorced. And Tina took me to the warehouse. Okay. Where Hugo was playing. Wow. And she said, so we went up in a DJ booth and he wasn't there. And so I said, it was Emmanuel was there. Okay. And so I said, hey, when Hugo comes, can you tell him that I was here? So Hugo comes, Emmanuel says, yeah, there's a chick up here who was looking for you. So when I come back up, Hugo turned around and I was like this. Right. And he was like this. And here we are today.
Wow. Look at that. That's lovely. Yeah. Look at God.
But you know what's funny is both of us being in the same, and I know you want to end this interview, but
no, it's fine. Speak, baby, speak. It's your time.
The thing that's funny is that when you are in a relationship with somebody who's a DJ or somebody who's a radio personality, and you're not in that that industry, it can be a little it it can be different because you don't understand why they're doing this or why and how come this
has
girl
it taken
always,
it so long or something?
Why these girls always in the DJ booth?
Right.
And, all of this. Or why is this guy always calling you on the radio?
Right.
So it takes a special kind of person.
It does.
To be with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that includes you too, Maurice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It takes a special kind of woman or man to be able to remove yourself and understand that person that's out there. It's like Krishna and Hugo got in the car and drove here.
Right.
But First Lady and Hugo H got out of the car.
Absolutely.
So when you're able to separate that, that's what makes a difference. Because you do have people that they see your happiness and they don't have it or they don't understand it. Yep. And so they want to be messy with it.
Absolutely.
But for years, people have tried to be messy with us and you can't do it. Why? Because we ain't about that life.
Y'all get a strong bond on it.
Anything you say to me about him, I'm going to say, hold that thought. Let me get him on the phone.
Right.
Or not get him on the phone because if you see him, you're going to see me.
Exactly. Y'all team, right.
Right. So I think the best advice, because you're married or you're getting ready to get married, right?
Yes.
The best advice that I was given came from Tony Hurley, Steve Hurley's wife,
right.
And this was back in 1995.
Right.
She said, when you all are arguing, leave it in the car.
Yep.
When you get out, nobody should know you all been arguing.
That's right.
Best piece of information she ever gave. The information that we give to people is argue. Often.
Right.
Argue, scream, shout, fight, whatever you have to do because that's life.
Yes, it is.
And then get past it. Like, we'll argue and then I'll say, I'm getting ready to make some food for my husband. I don't give a damn if you starve. Yeah. But I'm making something for my husband. So let my husband know the food will be ready in an hour. And then he'll do me the same way. Yeah. So it is tricky, but when I am his biggest fan, when he's playing, I'm the first one on the floor and probably the last one off because I enjoy what he does. I enjoy watching him play music and the way he plays influences me.
That's good.
So I'll be playing a song and he'll be sitting out there and he'll say, so you just gonna completely rip the way I beat this song, right? Right. And I'm like, well, yeah, because to me, this is how you're supposed to beat it. Right. And he's like, no, that's how I beat it. That's how I feel it. That's how I convey it. I'm like, yeah, and that's how the right way to do it.
But you know what? That's good that you say that because there are people in the house culture that are married and doing the same thing you guys are doing. And I think it's great that you guys are the head couple to look at to be like, y'all been doing it for 28 years. And there's a method to this madness. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that. I think the audience is going to love this and take some advice from it.
Being put into the Library of Congress.
Ooh, go ahead.
For Black Women in Radio. It was 39 of us. The Library of Congress, the radio task force for preservation of Black radio. Nice. So it's 39 of us. Kathy Hughes is one of those women. It's a bunch of them. So I can't even get into all the names, but we went to the Library of Congress. We've been put in there. So our history is going to travel around, and 200 years from now, people will be able to come back and read my story, my history. So it will include everything, including house music. Right. And then from that, we got an invitation to the White House. Right. The White House press secretary, Corinne, what is Corinne's last name? Jean-Pierre. Okay. First Black female. Right. Press secretary. She wanted to meet us. Nice. And so while we were in D.C., we were there. We met with her. She's wonderful. And we were all taking a picture. And I said, hi, my name is First Lady. And she said, I know you. Ooh. And you won a Billboard Award and you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is the freaking White House press secretary. Right. And she read my bio. Wow. Stop. Right. So, that was...
That's big time.
Yeah, it was big time.
That is big time.
And as a result of that, I'm now doing interviews with, day before yesterday, I did an interview with the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. Right. With the Secretary of Homeland Security and the chief economist from the White House. So I'm now a White House correspondent for Black media. So that is amazing. We'll be going for the Christmas party at the White House.
Yeah.
So it's,
nice.
And all of this because Bonnie DeShong said, you already got your foot in the door thanks to Farley,
right?
Which is thanks to Steve Poindexter.
Right.
You already got your foot in the door thanks to Lee Michaels.
Yeah.
You might as well go ahead and carry it out. Like I said, it set me up for something that would pivot my whole life.
Amen to that. All right.
Now I'm done.
Well, we've done, y'all. Once again, thank you for tuning in for Everything House Music and More. I love you. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.